Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths that is based on the advanced information given to us by the exam boards. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. For us to create the largest number, we need to pick the biggest digits for the start of the number. So the biggest digit is 7, then 6, then 4, then 3. But the question says it wants the largest even number, so we need to just swap the last two around to make sure that it is even. So our answer is 7,634. In algebra, we don't show the times sign, so 17 times A times B just simply becomes 17AB. If there were 39 people on the bus and 4 people got off the bus, that would leave 35 people remaining on the bus. So the fraction of people staying on the bus is 35 out of the 39 people on the bus. So our answer is, as a fraction, 35 over 39, and we can't cancel that any further. The range is just the biggest number, take away the smallest number. Biggest number in this list is 15. The smallest number in this list is 3, so 15 take away 3 is 13, so the range is 13. Whenever we multiply two negatives, we always get a positive, so we know our answer will be positive. We're going to do 9 times 12, which is going to be 108, and v times v, which is going to be v squared. Median just means middle, but it's the middle of the ordered list. So the first thing we need to do is put these numbers in order. So we're going to have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 9. And to find the middle, what we do is we cross off the smallest and the largest and we put our pen away. Then we do the same thing again, smallest, largest, pen away. Now you see here that I can't cross out the smallest and largest because that will leave no numbers at all. So when you're left with 2 in the middle, all you need to do is add them together and divide by 2. So 5 plus 6 is 11, and 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. And if you look, 5.5 is exactly halfway between 5 and 6. Frequency just means how many. So when it says the frequency for a score of 11, it just means how many 11s are there. So I'm going to cross these out as I go. So 1, 2, 3, so 3 11s. Then for 12 there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For 13s there are 1, and for 14s there are 1, 2, 3. So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get 3 integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves 3 times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd, or an odd, cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64, and it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. The first thing we need to work out is the fraction that Sarah will receive. Well, if Jane receives 9 over 10, then that just leaves how much of the numerator to match the denominator. So 9 plus 1 is 10, so it leaves 1/10 left for Sarah to have. And the reason that works is that the total amount needs to add up to 1, and 9 over 10 plus 1 over 10 is 10 over 10, which is just 1. So next we need to find out what 1/10 of 60 is. So we know that we divide by the bottom and times by the top. So 60 divided by 10 is 6, and then 6 times 1 is just still 6. So our answer will be £6. So we're going to start off by working out what 100% of 120 is. Well, that's obviously just going to be 120. And we're trying to get to 6%. So we always start off by working out 10%. It's always normally useful. And we just divide that 120 by 10, so we get 12. And we try to get 6%, so it'd be nice if I knew 5%. And 5% is nice and easy because we just halve that 10%. So that'd be 6. And if we got the 1% as well, we can get to the 6%. So to find out what 1% is, we just divide the 10% by 10 and get 1.2. So to get the 6%, we're going to add the 5% and the 1%. So we're going to add the 6 and the 1.2. And so we just do 6 plus 1.2, which is just going to be 7.2. And that's our answer. When collecting terms, you've got to collect like terms. So we've got 13x, we've got a 3y. Now they're not like terms, but the 13x is a like term to the 7x. They're both x's. And the 3y is a like term to the 2y. So let's put the x's together. 13 lots of x plus 7 lots of x. And let's put the y's together. 3 lots of y plus 2 lots of y. So altogether we've got 13 lots of x plus 7 lots of x. Well, that's going to be 20 lots of x. And for the y's, we've got 3 lots of y plus 2 lots of y. That's going to be 5 lots of y. So our answer is 20x plus 5y. So for shop A, they're selling the rulers in lots of 3. And so we just need to get our 60 and divide it by 3 to figure out how many lots of 3 we have. So we've got 20. So if one bundle of rulers costs £1.50, then 20 times £1.50 would be £30. So in total it would cost £30 at shop A. We're going to do the same for shop B. Their bundles are 5 rulers, so we're going to do 60 divided by 5, which is 12. So we're going to buy 12 bundles at £2 each, and that will be £24. So the cheapest price is at shop B at £24. Another way of thinking about 19 over 8 is just 19 divided by 8. And to do 19 divided by 8, we put 8 on the outside and we do the bus stop. And we've got 19 there. So 8 doesn't go into 1, so we're just going to move that 1 across. 8 goes into 19 twice, but there are remainders, so we'll need to put some zeros on the end here. And it's remainder 3. 8 goes into 33 times, and there's a remainder of 6. 8 goes into 67 times, and there's a remainder of 4. And 8 actually goes exactly into 40, so we didn't need some of those zeros. So the answer will be 2.375. So we've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether. So we're told that the ratio of red, yellow and green is 3 to 2 to 4. So to work out how many parts there are altogether, we do 3 plus 2 plus 4, which is 9 parts. So there's 9 equal piles of sweets. Okay. But to work out what one part or one pile of sweets is worth, we're going to get the 99 sweets and divide it by the amount of piles, and that's going to be 11. So one part is worth 11 sweets. We're asked to find out how many yellow sweets, and yellow is the middle one, so it's going to be the 2. So yellow has 2 piles of 11 sweets. 2 times 11 is going to be 22, so it's going to be 22 sweets. To find the area of a parallelogram, we use a simple formula, which is the area is the base times the height. Now the base and the height must hit each other at 90 degrees, so this length here is not counted as the height because it doesn't hit the base, which is here, at 90 degrees. The height is this length here, and the base is either this length here or the length at the top. It doesn't matter because they both hit the height at 90 degrees. So we're going to do the base, which is 11, times the height, which is 3, and that gives us 33. Now both of the base and the height are in centimetres, therefore the area will be centimetres squared, 33 centimetres squared. Instead of doing 0.43 times 16, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 43 times 16. So I'm just going to get rid of the decimal and just change it to 43. But I've got to remember what I've done. So how have I managed to do that? Well, I've times it by 100, and that will be important at the end. And to do 43 times 16, there are loads and loads of different methods. Just pick whichever method you enjoy doing or that you find easiest. I'm going to do the grid method, but it by no means is the best method. It's just the one I'm choosing to do. So 43 is 43, and 16 is 10 and 6. So 40 times 10 is 400, 40 times 6 is 240, 10 times 3 is 30, and 3 times 6 is 18. Then I'm just going to add them all together. So 400 plus 240 plus 30 plus 18. And when you add those all together, you get 688. Okay. Now, the problem is that obviously this is not going to equal 688. What we've done though is we've times it by 100. So to find the answer, all we need to do is divide this, undo that times by 100, so divide it by 100. When we divide that by 100, we get 6.88. So water to orange is 3 to 2. Ooh. We've got water here and we've got orange squash here. And we're told that we've got 80 centilitres of orange. So we've got 80 here. And we're asked to find the amount of water required. So what we do is we figure out how to get from 2 to 80. Well, we're going to times by 40. If I times that side of the ratio by 40, I've got to times the left-hand side by 40 as well. 3 times 40 is 120. So I'm going to need 120 centilitres of water. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. To get from the length of a square to the area, we square the length. To work backwards, what we do is we square root, because the inverse of square is square root. So we've got 196, and we're going to square root it to find the length. So we work out the square root of 196, which is what number times itself is 196. And you should learn them from 1 to 15, so you should know all of the square numbers from 1 to 15. So you should know that the answer is 14. So the length, therefore, is 14. So to work out what the perimeter is going to be the distance around the square. So if I draw a square out, we know that each of these lengths are 14. So it's just going to be 14 times 4, which will be 56. So we're going to start by doing a circle at minus 13 and a circle at minus 6. And x is between those values, so we're just going to join them up with a line. Probably move my circle down a little bit. Okay, next thing to do is figure out which of these dots are going to be filled in. So if it can equal that number, it gets filled in. So it can equal minus 13, so I'm going to fill that in. But for minus 6, it can't equal that, so it becomes a hollow dot. So we start off by working out what 100% of 240 is. Well, that's obviously going to be 240. And a nice easy one to start off with is 10%. And we're trying to get to 21%, so 10% is always a good one to start with. So we divide by 10, which would be 24. And because we try to get to 21%, we'll need to find out what 1% is. And 1%, we just divide the 10% by 10 again, so it would be 2.4. And then we need to find out what 20% is. And 20%, we just double the 10%, so it would be 48. And so 21% is this plus this, because 1 plus 20 is 21. So we add these together, so 2.4 plus 48. Probably don't need to do this formally. Probably do this in our heads. So 50.4, but it says to increase 240 by that amount. So we need to get 240, we need to add the 50.4. Probably, again, don't need to show the working out for this, we can do this in our heads, but it's a bit easier to see what we're doing. So the answer would be 290.4. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now this might surprise some people because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4:1, but we can show here that it's a ratio of 3:1. With these questions we've just got to go around and fill in what we can, and there's going to be some numbers like this one here we can't fill in yet, so we're going to have to be strategic in the order we do it. I'm going to first of all look here and notice that the total of girls and boys is 29, the total of the boys is 18, so take away the 18 from 29 and we get 11. Next one I'm going to fill out is this one. Notice that the total for the green is 15, total for the boys who's picked green is 12, and therefore for the girls it's going to be 3. Then looking around, what's the next thing that we can fill out? We can fill out this one, because the total for the boys is 18, green is 12, blue is 1, therefore we've got 5 left over. Then we can fill out this one, 2 plus 5 is 7. Then we can fill out this one, so 2 plus 3 is 5, then plus another 6 would be 11, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. It's quite difficult to see where to start with this question, but I do notice that we've got the f terms here, 44f, and an f term here, 16f, so there must be some way of linking the two, and actually there is. If you look, we've got, let's just use a different colour, we've got C angles here, or interior angle. We've got the two parallel lines on the left and the right hand side, and a line connecting the two, and it kind of makes the C that you can see in purple. So that means that we know that angle CAB plus angle ABD are going to equal 180. So if we add them together, 16f plus 44f is going to equal 180 degrees. The reason for that is that they are interior. Now you could call that co-interior or allied angles or interior. All three of those will get the mark for the working out. So we're we're going to just put our tramlines in and solve this to find out what f is. So 16f plus 44f is going to be 60f, and 180, so we're going to divide by 60 both sides, and we get f equal to 3. Right, the other thing I notice is that we have a parallelogram, and something we know about a parallelogram is that the opposite angles are equal. Now you could also look at this angle and this angle also adding up to 180, they're also interior angles. Kind of doesn't matter with this question which approach you take, you'll get the same answer. So we know that y is going to equal 44 times f, and the reason being is that they are opposite in, let's start a new line here just so I've got room. They're opposite in a parallelogram, which is absolutely fine to state as a reason. That is a known mathematical thing. The opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So that's going to be 44 times 3, which is going to equal 132 degrees. So y is 132 degrees. The easiest way to compare fractions, decimals and percentages is to convert them all into decimals. So I'm just going to convert this percentage to a decimal, and to do that you just divide by 100. And I'm going to convert this fraction by timesing top and bottom by 10, and we know that 4/10 is 0.4. Then I'm just going to put all of these numbers in a place value grid, place value table, and we've got units, we've got tenths, we've got hundredths. Shouldn't need any more than that. So we've got 0.4, 0.43 and 0.27. Now what we do is we start on the left hand side and we find the smallest, because we're looking for it in ascending order, and the smallest tenth is the 2 there, so it's 0.27. So this is our smallest number, 0.27. Now the next two are equal, so we look at the hundredths, and this technically has a 0 there, so 0 is the next smallest. Now 0.40 was 2/5, so make sure you have the original fraction in and not 0.4. And then the largest one is the 0.43, which was 43%. So the word integer just means whole number, so we're looking for all the whole numbers that x can be. Well, it says here that x is between -2 and 3. So we can first of all fill out that -1, 0, 1 and 2 are definitely values that x can be. The next thing we look at is, can it be -2? Well, there's no little equal sign underneath the inequality, so it can't be equal to -2. But there is one for the 3, so it can actually equal 3. I'm going to start by just copying out the question. Now the word solve means find out what x is, and the first thing we do when we see solve is draw lines to the left and right of our equal sign so we can solve it. So there's two things stopping us from having x on its own: this over 5 and this take away 10. Now that take away 10 isn't in the fraction, and normally I would say to get rid of the fractions first, but because that take away 10 is just sitting there on its own, we need to get rid of that first. So what I'm going to do is the opposite of take away 10 to both sides. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. That will leave the x over 5 on the left hand side, and 0 plus 10 is 10. So we want to get rid of this over 5, but what does over 5 mean? Well, it means divided by 5. So the opposite, the inverse of divided by 5 is times 5. So I'm going to do that to both sides. So we're left with x on the left hand side, 10 times 5 is 50. So x equals 50. We're going to first of all have to convert these both into the same unit. So we've got minutes and hours, that's not going to help us much. So what I'm going to do is pick the smaller unit, which will be minutes. So I'm going to keep that 50 minutes. And I'm going to convert 3 hours into minutes. That would be 180 because we times by 60. And I'm going to just remove the minutes now. And I can first of all divide by 10, and we want to try and make it nice and simple for ourselves. So divide by 10 would be 5 to 18. And we look at it, 5 and 18, actually there's nothing further we can do with that. So the ratio would be 5 to 18. The median is the middle number when the numbers are in order. Now it's quite difficult to do with a table, so we used a formula, and that formula is to find the position of the median. We do how many numbers there are, which I'll call n, we add 1 to it, and then we divide that by 2. And that shows us where the median is. It doesn't tell us what the median is, it shows us where it is. Now, we need to figure out where these numbers are in this list. So the first number is a 2, and there is 1 of those. The next number is a 3, and there's 3 of those. So 1, 2, 3. The next number is a 4, and there's 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The next number is a 5, and there's 8 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the next number is a 6, and there's 13 of those. Now I'm not going to do all of them, okay, because we're not going to be working out the median by writing out all the numbers, but I do want to show you where these numbers are coming from. So what we do is we do a running total. So I'm going to do a running total. The running total is just adding up the frequencies as we go. So the first one is just 1. Then we're going to add the 3 in the next row, so that's 4. Add the 4 in the next row, 8. Add the 8 in the next row, 16. Add the 13 in the next row, and that would be 29. Now, we use the running total because the running total shows us where the last number is in that group. Okay, so this shows us that the first number is the last number that is a 2, which is true, we can see it here. This 4 shows us that the fourth number is the last number that's a 3, so let's check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, it works. This 8 shows us the 8th number is the last number that's a 4, let's check that. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This 16 shows us the 16th number is the last number that's a 5. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And this 29 here shows us that the 29th number is just the last number, but it's the last number that's a 6th. Okay, so let's work out how many numbers there are, and we do that by adding up the frequency. So we're just going to add up all of the frequency together, and we find out that there's 29 numbers altogether. So 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 8 plus 13. So using our formula, which is 29 plus 1 divided by 2. 29 plus 1 is 30, divided by 2 is 15. So we're looking for the 15th number. So looking down our running total list, well, the last number that's a 4 is the 8th number, so we haven't got to the 15th number yet. And the last number that's a 5 is the 16th number. So if the last number that's a 5 is the 16th number, then surely the 15th must also be a 5. And so our median is 5. We have our everything list here. Now these are all the numbers that go into our Venn diagram. And in A is all the square numbers. So we're going to have a look and see which square numbers we've got. Well, we've got 1 and we've got 4. And we've got 9 and we've got 16 are all square numbers. So in here is 1, 4, 9 and 16. And we're going to look at all the odd numbers. So we've got 3, we've got 17, we've got 1 and we've got 9. Now in both the lists we've got the 1 and 9, so that's going to go in the middle. Just the square numbers are 4 and 16, and just the odd numbers are 3 and 17. Now notice we've got the 2 and the 6 there, and those will just be on the outside. So this says, find the probability of A or B. Now A or B means it can be in A, it can be in B, or it can be in both. So we add the 5, the 3 and the 12 together, and that gives us 20, and put that over the total amount. So that is these three added together, which is 20, plus the one outside here, which is 30. 20 over 30 is the same as 2 over 3. So in this question, we basically need to add the 2 3/4 and the 2 2/5. So we're going to do 2 3/4 plus 2 2/5. Now, if I just rewrite this, 2 3/4 can be written as 2 plus 3/4 plus 2 plus 2 1/5, or 2/5. So we can add the two 2's together to make 4, and then all we need to do is add the 3/4 and the 2/5. So when you add two numbers with different denominators, what we need to do is get the common denominators. And we do that by just quickly writing out the 4 and the 5 times table and seeing what the first number in both their times tables is. 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's 20. So we need to get the bottoms of the fractions to 20. Now for 3/4, to get the bottom to equal 20, we need to times the 4 by 5. And whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top, so times that by 5 as well, which will be 15. And for 2/5, we'll get that bottom to 20, so we times that by 4. And so we've got to times the top by 4 as well, to make it 8. So it's going to be 15 over 20 plus 8 over 20. So we need to add the numerators. So it would be 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23 over 20. Now that is a top-heavy fraction, so we can rewrite that as 1 3/20. And we can add the 4 and the 1 together to make 5 3/20. So the answer is 5 3/20. We're going to start by looking at the numerator and the denominator separately. So looking at the numerator first, we've got 9 to the power 16 times 9 to the power 46. Now, when you have two powers of the same base, so they're both 9, base 9, but base is the big number, then what you can do is you can add the indices. So we're going to do 16 plus 46, which is 62. So it's 9 to the power of 62. And looking at the denominator, well, you've got a power inside and outside the bracket. Whenever you have that, you can just multiply them. So it'd be 9 to the power of 40. Now, whenever you've got a division between two powers of the same base, which we have here, it's 9 to the power of 62 divided by 9 to the power of 40. We just take away the indices. So it'd be 62, take away 40, which will be 9 to the power of 22. So our answer is 9 to the power of 22. To work out the area of a rectangle, we just multiply the width and the length. Here they are mixed numbers, so all we do is the width times the length. Now when you multiply with fractions, always make them top heavy first, or improper, and to do that you times the big number by the bottom and add it to the top. So we're going to do 1 times 2 and add it to the top, so 3 over 2. Same with this one, 1 times the 3 at the bottom, added to the top. 1 times 3 is 3, add to the top is 5. Now we've got to get the numerator, we don't need to get the numerator the same, we're multiplying. All we do now, really easily, is just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So we've got to convert 15 over 6 into a mixed number because it asks for a mixed number. So 15, how many 6's go into 15? Well, we're first of all going to have 2 whole ones, and how many left over? There are going to be 3 left over. Now, 3 over 6 is the same as 1/2, because we can divide top and bottom by 3. So our answer is 2.5. So we know that James knows that he has a square, so we can actually get rid of all of this bit. It's not relevant at all to the question. And the question asks, what is the probability that the square is blue? Well, there are 3 blue squares, so it will be 3 over, and how many are there in total? Well, it says the total is 17. So the answer is 3 over 17. To answer this question, we need to know what an equation, expression, formula, and identity is. So the formula is basically an equation but for real world things. So area equals pi r squared. It's where the letters actually mean something. Expression is just algebra without the equal sign. So 5x plus 3 would be an expression. An equation has an equals and it can be solved. So you can find out what x is or find out what a is. And an identity is true for all values of that letter. So an example would be x times x equals x squared. That's an identity because that's true for all values of x. So looking here on the right hand side, we've got 3x plus 2x. But if we imagine x is 10, so 3x would be 30 plus 2x would be 20, 30 plus 20, well that will equal 5x, 5 times 10. And actually this is true for all values of x. And the reason it's true for all values of x is we know that 3x plus 2x, this right hand side here, equals 5x. They're the same thing. Now normally with an identity, it's shown with 3 lines. Now in the exam, this type of question, it won't be shown with 3 lines because that kind of gives it away that it's an identity. But this question is definitely an identity. And you can't solve it because it's true for all values of x. So yes, x could be 10, x could be 1,000,000, x could be 1/3, x could be anything. So the symbol here basically means and the way I remember it is if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. So this question is asking us really to divide the 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. So we're going to do 5 3/4 divided by 1 3/4 because we're finding out how many of each of these towels, which is 1 3/4 meter, can be made when the total amount of cotton is 5 3/4. So first thing we're going to do is convert them to mixed numbers, to top-heavy or improper fractions, because at the moment they're mixed numbers and we can't divide or times if they're mixed. So we times the 5 by the 4 and add it to the top, which will be 20, and then add it to the top 23, and then do the same. 1 times 4 is 4, plus it to the top is 7 over 4. Now a little trick here is KFC. We keep the first fraction, we flip the second fraction, and we change the divide sign to a time sign. So we're going to keep this first fraction as it is, change that divide to a times, and flip the second fraction. Okay, whenever we multiply, we just multiply the tops, so 23 times 4, which is 92, and we times the bottoms, which will be 28. And now we need to convert this back into a mixed number. So first of all, actually we can simplify this because we can divide top and bottom by 4. So that would be 23 over 7, and then make this a mixed number. So 7's into 23 go 3 whole ones, and then obviously 2 remainders, so it's 2 over 7. Now it asks us for the amount of towels that she can sew patterns into. Now the issue here is that she will do 3 whole towels but then have some left over, but she doesn't have enough to create a 4th towel, so it's just going to be 3 as an answer. So we're going to write an expression for the amount of people on the first bus. So they've started with X passengers and they've gone to 11 bus stops with X passengers. So altogether that is 12X. So we're going to have the first bus. And so we've got 12X. And then on the last bus stop, 19 passengers get on. So plus 19. Now for the second bus, well, we start with X and a further 5X come on. Because 5 bus stops with X passengers. So that's 6X altogether. And then 79 get on. And it says the first bus finishes with less passengers than the first. So the first bus finishes with less. And the way we show that is with this inequality here. Now all we need to do is solve that inequality. And we've got X on both sides, so we look at the X's. We've got 12X and 6X, so we always take away the smaller amount. So we're going to take away the 6X both sides. And next thing we're going to do is take away the 19 from both sides. And so, meant to be 60. Got ahead of myself. And the last thing we do is divide by 6 both sides. And so we've got X is less than 10. Now, it says here, assuming no passengers got off either bus, what is the largest value for X? Now, it is tempting to write down 10, but it says X has to be less than 10. So the biggest number we can get that is less than 10 is 9. So we're going to first of all realise that this is a right angle triangle and we've got 2 lengths and an angle involved, therefore it's going to be trigonometry. So we're going to just label the sides first. The one opposite right angle is the hypotenuse, opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now the adjacent doesn't have a number or a letter next to it, so it's not interesting, so get rid of that. Next we're going to do our trigonometry triangles. And so we've got SAW, Ka, Toa, and we are just crossed out the adjacent, so we don't need this one and we don't need this one, and we're going to end up with SAW, which is short for sine the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. The angle is marked as X, so sine X equals root 3 over 2. You need to know from memory that sine 60 is root 3 over 2. And notice here that the X therefore is going to equal 60. So here we're given a right angle triangle and the question involves 2 lengths and angles, so we know we're going to be using trigonometry. So let's start by labelling our sides. The one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, the one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now notice the hypotenuse doesn't have a number or letter next to it, so let's get rid of that. Next thing we'll do is draw our trigonometry triangles. So we've got SAW, Ka, Toa. Now we've crossed out the H, so we're not going to be interested in the SAW or the Ka. So it's going to be Toa. Toa is short for tan the angle equals opposite over adjacent. The angle is 60, so it's tan 60 equals X over 1. And so now here we're looking for the exact value of X. So if I times both sides here, let's just get our solving lines in here, and times both sides by 1, or just get rid of the fraction, we end up with X equals tan 60. Now you need to know off by heart what tan 60 is, and we can work it out just briefly by drawing a right angle triangle, sorry, not a right angle triangle, an equilateral triangle. So that is going to be 60 by 60 by 60. And we're going to put all the lengths around the outside as 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down the middle. And I'm just going to cut it into half. And so the length at the bottom will be 1. And using Pythagoras, we've got to work out the length here, it's going to be 2 squared, which is 4, take away 1 squared, which is 1, will be 3, and then square root it would be root 3. So we know that's going to be root 3. So looking at labelling the sides here, just pick a colour to make sure it's nice. So we've got the hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here, and then the root 3 will be the opposite. And so we're looking for tan 60. So tan, as we know, is the opposite over adjacent. And so tan 60 is going to be the opposite, which is root 3, over the adjacent, which is 1 in our diagram there. So tan 60 is equivalent, it's the same as root 3 over 1, or just root 3. So when we're doing column vectors and adding and subtracting them, we just literally add and subtract the top and bottom numbers. So A plus B minus C will be, just looking at the top, 9 plus 18 minus 9, 9 plus 18 minus 9, which will equal 18. And the bottom will be 9 plus minus 18, so really minus 18, and minus 9, and so that will be minus 18. So our column vector will become 18 minus 18. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.